Now, amicable resolution of the Magodo Phase 2 estate land dispute is in the offing. An agreement seems to have been reached between the Shangisha Landlords Association, the judgment creditors and the Lagos state government. At a meeting with Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, parties in the dispute reached the pact, with the state government promising to provide 549 plots within Shangisha to the affected land stakeholders as directed by the Supreme Court about 10 years ago. But the event of a shortfall of the area, the government, in agreement with the parties, will provide alternative plots of land for them. Now let's share the story of the meeting with the governor with you.
Governor is here, please.
24 hours after the protest by residents of Magodo Phase 2 over the occupation of armed policemen in the estate and the eventual intervention of Governor Sanwo-Olu, all roads led to Alaosa. Hours after waiting at the press center, journalists were called to the State House where the meeting is holding. Top government officials joined Governor Sanwo-Olu to host the stakeholders in the Magodo age-long land tussle. The governor noted that the meeting jointly agreed that the committee earlier constituted by the government should commence work in earnest.
Immediately, meaning from Friday, they would be working with all of the stakeholders at identifying available plots of land around the Shangisha area. Drones will be flown, surveys will be made. In the event that there are identified plots, allocations will be made timely, and what additional plots, if you don't have the right number there, will also be identified at mutually agreeable location with the other stakeholders, and the government will also review the list of all of the allottees, 549 of them.
He added that his administration would work towards ensuring a win-win situation. Chairman of the Shangisha Landlords Association, Chief Adebayo Adeiga, told the media shortly after the meeting that they will give the state government the benefit of the doubt to execute their agreement.
The demand is the remaining land there should be given to Shangisha Landlords Association. The rest will be, they will pay on ratification. They pay gratuity to us because we are not going to move on to another place.
All parties have agreed to what the governor proposed, and we are very happy. All parties, including the police. So there's nothing to add. We will go along with the governor, and we hope that all decisions taken inside that hall will be implemented speedily.
The meeting had in attendance representatives of the Shangisha Landlords Association, Magodo Residents Association, and the State Commissioner of Police, Hakim Odumusu. With the intervention of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the 38 years journey of a land tussle is getting a headway. But this is just the beginning of a process that will require more fine-tuning. Adedoja Salam Adeniyi, TVC News, Lagos.
Like our correspondent said, this will require more fine-tuning. So, Adekunle, indeed, we know we were discussing before this. We said that we'll come on air to discuss this now. So when you look at this situation, would you say an end is in sight with this arrangement?
It's difficult for me to say so. This governor, Governor Sanwo-Olu, has, come forward as somebody who is genuinely interested in finding a solution. But around him, he's surrounded with a lot of very difficult issues. The judgment is not new. Since 2012, Supreme Court of the land, when the Supreme Court pronounces, as far as we know in a democracy, that's the end of discussion. no rigmarole, no this, no that. You implement it. Because if you want to practice democracy, rule of law, you should be able to respect the pronouncements of the court. Now, that's the final court of the land. Now, from 2012 to this time, how many people have been in power? So when you look at so many issues that have come up, you know that it's a very difficult situation. The state government had tried in the past to allocate plots of land to judgment creditors, which they declined that no. And truly, if I were one of them, I would do the same. A plot of land here in Magodo is not the same value with a plot of land in maybe elsewhere. So, a plot of land here, do you know it's not the same with a plot of land in Lekki? You know the kind of the work you will do on your soil in Lekki before you even start building. Right. So this is a very difficult thing to do. But I think when there is sincerity and the willingness to do something, it can be done. What the state government just achieved here is like at least de-escalate tension, which is good. I didn't like a lot of things that came up. Governor was disrespected, this and that. No, nobody disrespected the person and office of the governor. I didn't like the way people are. No, nobody did. If you watch the video, the governor was very civil, and the young officer was also very civil. You can discuss issues around state police, power, or whatever, but this matter is so clear. But when there is impunity, it becomes a very complicated, matter, just as what is that. And that's what has led to this matter. Those who are in Magodo today, they said, okay, where will we go? And this matter, it is caused solely by the state government. I'm not saying the administration of Sanwo-Olu, but by the state government. And the fact that government is a continuum, there is no way the sitting government can shy away from it. That's to solve the problem, and that's what it is doing. When you look at what they said now, they come up with committee, they will have to look for plots of land around the same place. I don't know whether they will have enough, because 549, that's a lot. So if they get such a number of lands, they will have to the judgment creditors will have to agree that they will accept it, because if they do not, it means they're back to square one. Yeah. So it's a very, very complicated matter.
Complicated indeed. Mr. Paul, this matter, like we rightly discussed, had been judged upon 10 years ago, and it is now that this government has to deal with it. Although Adekunle has rightly pointed that the government is a continuum. When the court had given that judgment, it should have implemented it at the time. So now this present government is trying to do all it can to ensure parties parties involved in this case have matters resolved, amicably. But what would you say? Would you say the government doesn't have any? I'm trying to get myself here on this matter, because I don't really know what to say about this matter. What do you think the government should do at this point?
It's shameful that this current administration is burdened by the irresponsibility of past administrations. We're talking about a Supreme Court judgment that was given 10 years ago, but let's understand that the court process did not start 10 years ago. These people lost their properties in the 80s. 1984. Yeah, under the regime, during the regime of a late military governor, Bola Amuda Shiru. Okay, let's even say that military, being who they are, during the military era, the military wasn't known for obeying court orders normally. So we've had 3 civilian administrations, before this one, and then none of them implemented that judgment. It went through the High Court, It went to the appeal court, and the Supreme Court also reinforced the order. Now, what has happened has raised a lot of issues about our country. We need to learn to respect institutions. We need to learn to respect the different arms of government. The judiciary is independent. The judiciary is the last hope of the common man. When you cannot find joy in other arms of government, when you can't find joy from government agencies, when you can't find joy in your dealings with your fellow citizens, this judiciary is supposed to give you joy. And now, when the judiciary says, okay, this is the wise men of the apex court said this is the way to go, and some people feel no, that should not be obeyed, or it should be obeyed in the breach. So what I am very happy the way the governor has conducted himself, because like we said before we came on, it's not easy. He's a governor at a very difficult time. Indeed. When it's not dealing with NSAS issues, it's dealing with COVID. With it. So now it's a very naughty situation, because of course those who the government creditors deserve to have their properties back. The residents who have been occupying the place for many years they think they're also occupying legally, because they obtained their CFO, they went through the right processes to get their property. But Supreme Court has spoken. End of story. So what should be done is what they are already doing, I think. But then the government creditors must be satisfied with whatever the governor is offering them. In fact, I even want the Lagos State government to go ahead and help them build their houses. Because their properties were pulled down. It is not enough to just give them landed properties. That is what I think. Now, they should be satisfied with wherever you give them. They were offered, like Adekule said, they were offered a place in Ekpe sometime, and they said no. Of course, the value of Magodo is higher than the value of Ekpe. So, already they are looking for a place in Shangisha to give them. If they can't find a place, they offer them an alternative. If they are not satisfied with the alternative, they just have to find a way of satisfying them. The way to go is to douse this tension. Right.
Well, let me hold your thoughts. And I understand we have a call from Jos Gambo. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. You can go ahead with your contribution. You're live.
Well, I'm Gambo. I'm calling from Jos.
Right, go ahead.
Hello?
Okay, it seems we are yet to have a stable connection with you. When you have a complete stable connection, we'll have this conversation continued. So go ahead, Paul, from what you were saying.
So what I'm saying is that the way to go is for the governor or the state government to respect the wish of these people, because they are backed by the law. Okay, they are not just, they didn't just come up to say we want to repossess. They went through they didn't use thugs. And there is no, I don't see any problem in the fact that they enlisted or they petitioned the AGF and the IGP. I don't see any, because if the Supreme Court has given an order and the judgment debtor is not listening, now the state government is not listening, then you have to resort to
self-help.
Yeah, no, it's not even self-help. It's not self-help. If it was self-help, they would have just gone with thugs or something. They went with law enforcement agencies. They got, except that the CSP couldn't produce a court, but that's another issue. That's another issue.
You know, from Adekule, when you see these things, you just wonder, how will this happen in a government which is known to follow the right process? How will this happen? You know, we had different organizations, administrations in Lagos State, and they seem to have been doing well. So how will this, happen to slip by under their noses and without doing the right thing at the right time when they needed to do this?
Well, it's surprising too, but the truth is, this is the more reason why this sitting government must put this matter to rest, whatever it's going to take, because if this had happened under the federal government, maybe against Lagos State, some of us will be openly condemning the federal government.
That's true.
The media will be extremely unfair, I mean, let me say critical of the federal government, because you cannot be discussing the judgment of the Supreme Court. What you are expected to do is to implement it. And that's what democracy is all about, rule of law. That has not happened, and we're happy it's finally about to happen. You get my point? To me, that's the more reason this sitting government in Lagos State should do everything. And from what I read in part of the communique, read out by the Commissioner for Information and Strategy, my good boss, Mr. Magodo, they put up, the committee is chaired by the Attorney General. We have the Commissioner for Urban and whatever planning. You have the Permanent Secretary. You have Surveyor General, all of them in place. They said look for available plots of land in Shangisha, scheme and meet the area. Then, if there are things the government should do, infrastructural development for people to be able to access the plots of land and all that. So the state government should do everything within its power to make sure that at least the people I want to be happy in this, first in this matter, are the judgment creditors.
All right, let's hold your thoughts. We need to take this call. We understand. Samuel is calling from Ikeja. Samuel, please go ahead.
Journalist Hangout, you people are doing a very good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What the governor of Lagos has done, he has taken the responsibility of the past government. But what I want to say now is that there are other lands the state government acquired, not for public use, that were distributed to civil servants. The governor should look into this and bring in justice. Because Lagos has a small landmass, and the governor and the civil servant have in the past trespassed on people's land. And this should be stopped in the interest of peace and unity of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for your contribution. So, Adekule, you need to wrap up on this.
Yes, the caller just said it all. Whatever failures on the part of previous administrations, this is a government, to the best of my knowledge, the Governor Sanwo-Olu looks extremely sincere, and should just find a way to right all the wrongs, and let's move on. We don't need controversies in Lagos.
And righting the wrongs should be done speedily. These people lost their property 38 years ago. Property 38 years ago. I hope it's not going to take another 4-5 years to right the wrong. You know what I'm saying? So, righting the wrong.
So.
No, well, I know what I'm talking about. Because sometimes, you don't get to hear the last about things like this. But hopefully, they will right the wrong very fast. I hope it's not going to take bureaucratic delays and all of that. No, I hope so. We have to beg. That shouldn't happen.
And the caller also mentioned about some lands that has been, forcefully taken, because I remember as a situation happened in another area in Lagos. This is Abulegba, where some landed properties that had been bought, because my dad we happened to have fallen victim. We bought a piece of land in Abulegba, that's it, and it was about 1980s or thereabout, and he had already built his property and everything is standing. All of a sudden, this was in 2013 or thereabout, some group of people said, okay, they got a judgment that says this is our property, and so we should vacate the land, demolish it. So the whole thing was a drama of some sort. So it was like, I have my C of O. So where do I start from again? So this is one out of many other cases. Magodo, because it's prominent, people are there, so it is loud. So people get to know this kind of situation. What about other areas that are also where you have landowners that have been affected, that their properties have been seized and being sold out to people who do not know that there's a case over such?
I agree absolutely. This also happened to my family, to my father many years ago. This was in the 70s. Bought land, and then a family came and said, and they had built. People have built houses. A family came and said, "Look, we've got court judgment or something. All of these properties belong to us." And people started negotiating with them, But the truth of the matter, I also want to say, in much as this is a very, very unfortunate situation, I also need people to be very careful when they are buying land. You need to do investigation. There are some lands that they are government acquired already. And then people, maybe moneyless and co, we just go and sell land. And people have lived there for 20 years and all of that. Suddenly government wakes up and says, we want to use that place. They start demolishing properties and people start crying. It happens. We've heard of that happening. I think in my career as a journalist, I've covered such things before. But we are advising that we have the Ministry of Lands. We have Ministry of Lands. If somebody is offering you land, go make your investigation and find out who truly owns the land, so that you don't begin to tell stories that touch the heart. Sometimes when government agencies are rolling in the equipment to demolish these buildings, they don't do it with human face. You understand? They don't care. They don't care if you spend millions to erect your property. They just go ahead and demolish. So to avoid all, people should be enlightened enough. And I think that enlightenment also should be done by government.
Right.
Should be done by government. There are areas that have been acquired by government. There are areas, there are places that, so there are times that you just go and buy land. You buy from the wrong person. There are times that other money will just tell you, a family, they have families. They have different branches of their family. So a branch of the family will come and say, they'll sell the land to you. Another branch will wake up. I don't know whether sometimes it's even planned work. Another branch will come and say, now lie, now we get the, and they will show you a valid judgment from a court. So we're talking about respecting the judiciary. What are you going to say? If they have validly obtained judgment from the court, it means they are the owners.
All right, let me quickly take this call. We have a caller from Burden Kebbi. Ibrahim, please go ahead.
Good evening, journalist Hangout.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I'm calling from Burden Kebbi. I want to contribute to this issue of the Magodo land dispute.
You're live, go ahead.
The observation I want people to do is this brings to question the ownership of land in Nigeria. The Land Use Act that was promulgated during Obasanjo was fraudulent. Land generally in Nigeria is owned by indigenous people, not the government. Because initially that land in Magodo, if the government had properly acquired it and compensated the owners, there wouldn't be problems today. So that's just the observation I want to make.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for that brief contribution.
I think this caller and the last caller, when you look at what they said, you realize that there are areas that government acquired under the pretext that they want to use it for public good, like want to do a public hospital, public this, public that. But eventually, government will demolish houses, chase away people, and ended up sharing the land with maybe civil servants, top government functionaries, friends of parties and whatever, instead of using the same plot of land for public good as what. So these are some of the things that we should avoid, so that down the line, I mean, in future, we won't be having this kind of unnecessary, distractions. To me, this is a distraction for the state government. The governor doesn't need the kind of issue. He has to solve it.
Final thoughts on this, Paul.
Government is there for the people. It's not there for itself. Government is there to serve the interests of the people. We are operating democracy, not a military government. So government has no right to go confiscate people's land or take over people's land without doing it duly. They can't. You can't tell people. You can't acquire people's land. Not that pretend that you want to build a government hospital as the case, international hospital as the case was over this, and then start giving it out to civil servants or your friends in government. You can't do that. You have to be responsible for the common man. Majority of people are poor. Some people acquire land after use their life savings to acquire land, and sometimes it takes some of them 3 years, 4 years to build. The day they have 500,000, they go and do this. The day they have 200,000, they do something on the land. And then after the person has spent 25, 30 years there, you roll out your equipment and then you demolish, or you start, all of that. It's wrong. It's wrong.
Absolutely. And let's hope that there's a final resolution on this matter. But let's quickly go on a very quick break. You're still on to Journalist Hangout to have more discussions in just a moment. Stay with us.